Welcome back to another episode of Milk Eggs.
And a whole lot of tea.
And I'm Brandon.
And I'm Allegra.
And we are back, Allegra, with an
Mhm.
amazing guest that we have today. Would you like to share?
Yes. You know what? In the season of finding oneself,
Hmm. Yes, tell me more.
it's best to have someone who is a skills expert in a coaching field, a love field. So it's best to have someone here who can like teach you some knowledge, especially for the single people out here like myself. Brandon's already hooked up, so I am so happy to introduce the one and only Suzanne Jackson.
Yay! Hello, Suzanne. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Toddler clap.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for, spending the next 45 minutes with us.
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Okay, well, let's get started. So let's start really with your journey and what you do and all that good stuff. So you've been coaching women for over a decade now, but your transition into love coaching came after a 6-year relationship, is what we found out.
Yes, the ending of a 6.5 year relationship. Yes.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
That's a long
it was,
time.
it was a long time. Uh, some would say a waste of time, but everything happens for a reason, right? And so, you got to find the grace in all of that. Uh, but yeah, upon ending that, it was really I needed to find myself again. And it's one of my favorite things about breakups is like you kind of get to shed that skin of who you used to be and you emerge as a new snake. I know that sounds gross. Or
Yes.
butterfly. We could say butterfly. But I don't know why. I just think snake transformation. A lot of people don't like snakes. But just kind of shed the skin and you become a new person. And I just wanted to help women do that as well. And, not necessarily after a breakup, but really just in kind of like shedding the skin of who they used to be to emerge to be who they're meant to be and to find the person that's meant for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, well, because there's always a person out there for anybody.
Yeah,
If you're wanting a person, some people just don't want people like that. But it's
true.
funny because I geared up the question. I didn't even ask the question, and you answered the question without me even asking it. So
I'm
I
here for it.
appreciate
I
it.
knew where you were going with this. I was like, let's just go.
Let's just go with it. Yep, and you did it. So that's awesome, though. That's awesome, and it's cool that you were able to find yourself, but then turn around and now helping shape and coach these women. So
Hmm.
that's
I
awesome.
love that. So let's talk about finding a person.
Let's do
Mhm.
it.
Let's talk about that. Okay, so what dating out here is already hard. So
Mhm.
what's the most common excuse people make for someone's bare minimum in their efforts in dating? And why do we fall for it? Men and women and they and them.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. Because it's everyone just wants love, right?
Mhm.
No matter who and what you are and what you identify as. Um, I would say we get what we tolerate in love, and we also
Ooh.
we accept the love we think we deserve, right? So if we're feeling really low about ourselves and we're just like grasping for anything, please, anything, I just want love, we're going to accept the bare minimum. And so, I mean, it's no wonder why, there's a lot of women out there who just naturally, like, through conditioning, not their fault, right? Just their circumstances that have kind of found themselves in a really low space. And so then when someone actually shows them attention, any sort of attention, whether it's, oh yeah, I want to like, treat you as my princess, which is what we all want, but usually it's more like, sure, I guess. That's the partner that we're attracting when we're just feeling so down. So, it really it's hard, to really break out of that, but that's where I come in handy, right? So really breaking through the barriers to build your self-worth to be like, no, I'm a high value person and I deserve a high value person as well.
Mhm. That's
Yeah,
great, building that self-confidence because you have to have it, and whether you're finding love or not finding love, it's just a good thing to have.
sure is.
That's good. So, kind of leading me into the next question. Confidence and self-worth play a big role into dating. So, you talk a lot about being a high value woman. What does that really mean, and what are the key mindset shifts women need to embrace to step into this role in their relationship?
I think it's all about identity. Like if we're thinking, oh, I'm so old, or oh, like I'm so alone. I wish I could have someone, which I know we've all been there. It's a roller coaster. Ultimately, we're not going to think of ourselves as a high value, person or someone who's just like sought after, right? So if we are like really through breaking through barriers and whatnot, right? Through all of the coaching, etc. And this might happen naturally for some people too, which holler at you, like you really want to be like, I am a high value woman and I deserve the best, or man, or anything in between. And I deserve the best. And if someone's showing you less than the best, then you could be like, no. But it does take stepping into that identity. If you're like, oh, I'm really shy, then you're going to be really shy because you are identifying yourself as a shy person, you know?
Yeah, that's deep.
That
Yeah.
is
You can do
deep.
the same what? I am a confident person. I am going to walk out there, strut my stuff, go to a bar,
Yes.
and be confident. It's a choice that you make. There's a choice point.
I love
Mm,
that makes complete
that
sense.
makes complete
That's
sense.
channeling the
Yeah.
confidence, the beauty, the energy that you need
Mhm.
to just do it. It's almost like channeling the inner Beyonce.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. The queen herself.
Uh-huh.
We're about to go out and rock a Renaissance tour. Okay, that's
Okay.
the energy we're giving.
Have that poise. I feel
Yes.
you. Okay.
Okay, so question for you. Toxic or just mysterious? What's a classic dating red flag that people love to ignore because the
Mm.
chemistry is just too dang good?
Toxic or mysterious? I mean, that's a really good question. I would say the spark.
Okay.
And that's what you're talking about though, right? Like chemistry is so dang good. Like
Mhm.
when we're looking for that person, part of it is there a connection? Now it might be emotional, it might be like what you're saying, right? Get the chemistry, the sexual attraction. It could be something else entirely. Intelligence, right? Connection there as well. But ultimately, when we're talking about that spark, it's like, ooh, it's like a flame. It's all about chemistry, physical. And we just want to go towards that because that feels good. But ultimately, we want to find a slow burning relationship. We want to find, yes, we have a connection in one area at least, but where there's one, there might be more. So sometimes we end up going for the physicality of it so soon that we don't let the other parts of the relationship flourish or, organically evolve. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
You
I'm
got
guilty of
that.
that. I'm very guilty.
true. Yes, I think we've all been there and we've had to learn that like, oh, that doesn't actually fulfill me in the way that I need to, or we jump in so soon and ignoring all the things. So I don't know if there's a specific red flag so much as like going more towards that feeling of safety and home and really like, yeah, like this person feels good. I love being around this person, or, versus the unattainable but sexy spark.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. 'Cause that's like the catches the eye first. Like, "Oh, he's sexy," but is it that step back? Mm,
How many red flags are going off around you?
Yeah, yeah,
right.
You might look good, but
But
you got red all over you.
we gotta do
yeah,
some answer some questions. Okay.
yeah,
Oh, so question for you, piggyback off of that. We talked about high value mindset. So once we obtain the mindset, now we're trying to find the right partner.
Mm,
Now, dating apps
mm.
versus meeting in real life. It's always a debate with my girlfriends and I. So, because dating apps are trash. I'm sorry. They all belong in a bucket. And it's like, what's left of the men and people? That's what it is. It's just like, it's just in the bucket. So, question for you is, what are the best ways for women to position themselves for success and when they're meeting their potential mate?
yeah. Great question. We know this is for you, right, Allegra?
Yes, girl.
Asking for a friend.
Yes.
um, absolutely. So I don't love the dating apps. I
Hey,
believe that we found love long before the dating apps, and it was a simpler time, right?
true.
Um, the dating apps attract people that want something easy. And not saying this for everybody.
Mhm.
I know some people have found love on there, no trash to them or anything.
Dime a dozen. Mhm.
Typically, it's really attracting people that are like, "Oh, I guess that's the place I'll meet someone." If you're going out to like, I'm searching for that person, you gotta look like what's happening in here that I feel the need to have that person. So first and foremost,
Mm.
and especially when it comes to the masculine energy, is that really what he's going to be doing? Is he actually on the apps as well, or is he living his life and building his empire and all of that? And if he's doing that and he's so busy doing that, then you're much more likely to find him in real life or them in real life.
Yeah, yeah.
So I usually like when I start with my clients, I say, get off the apps first and foremost. When we're in the dating apps, and I think Allegra, we've talked about this before as well, it's like you're in this cycle
Yep.
basically going down the toilet, you know. You're excited, oh, maybe this person, look, I'm swiping right on all these people, like maybe, and then you get ghosted, you get rejected, or you don't match with anyone, or you're talking with someone and their energy is weird. Or let's say you actually have a decent conversation with them over the app. You meet in person, and you're like, this is not the same
Yep.
energy. I am not vibing with this at all. What has happened? Weird.
Mhm.
Or they
Pictures
don't
one
match their
way.
profile picture.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hello,
Mhm.
catfish.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yes, it's so sad. That happens a lot. Anyway, so then you're in this cycle of like this downward frequency. You're like, oh, this again. Oh, this again. And you start seeing this pattern of rejection, sadness, disappointment, kind of affirming this belief that love isn't out there. Love
Mm.
isn't for me. I'm always meant to be alone. I'm too old to find love. Are there even any many and even any good men out there or women? Like is there what is happening? Am I so, I don't know,
Mhm.
unworthy of love that I'm not finding it? So it just kind of brings you down this spiral. Now, ideally, we want to kind of lift us up like a little sundae, right?
Yeah.
That we
Yes.
want an upward frequency. And so when we get off the apps, we're not spending our time on stuff that doesn't work. We're not spending our time feeling rejected, feeling isolated, affirming all of those icky beliefs that we don't really believe. We just don't know what else to believe. And we spend it on going out, living our best lives, seeing what's out there, practicing confidence and the
Confidence.
3-second
Uh-huh.
rule. We're going out there, and as we meet people in real life, we're feeling their energy. We're knowing for certain, "Ah, I like the way that this person presents themselves. There isn't anything to compare it to or any weird, I don't know, energy beforehand. It's all right there."
Mm. God, that
And
makes so much sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get to go a little upward, like, "Ooh, this is exciting. I'm feeling excited about love again." Like, "Oh, this is oh,"
Yes.
it's all the good feelings, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
And it's
I
it's
like that.
yeah, taking yourself getting yourself almost behind the computer, like get out in front of the computer and go and meet somebody is what you're
Your
saying.
life.
Mhm. Live
Yes,
the life. Go out.
yes,
Yeah,
and so
Touch some grass or
yeah,
anything.
yes, go
But
sniff a flower.
yeah.
yeah. But I like that, and it's true because, like, when you're on the dating app, you're just like, swipe, swipe, and you're, like,
Mhm.
dead and stroll. It's like, "Okay, is there anyone can anyone carry on a conversation?" Or even so okay. So
So, yeah.
another question for you. So we meet this person out in the real life. When it comes to texting, I'm
Mm,
not sure if this happened to you, but this has happened to me sometimes.
Mhm.
Why it's probably a personal question as well. Why do some people reply zero point 0.2 seconds while others take 3 to 5 business days to reply? So
mm,
what is there has to be some secret psychology behind that. Or is it an attachment issue? What is it? So just I'll leave
I
this up.
would I mean, I would say that person's just not that into you.
Mm,
And do you really wanna be if he is playing games or they are playing games, like, do you wanna be with someone that's gonna take that long to respond, or do you wanna be with someone that's excited to chat with you?
mhm.
that's
I
a
mean,
hard lesson.
That
Yeah.
is
no,
a hard
and that's
lesson.
gonna respond right away. That's what my dude did.
Oh,
Got
good
there,
deal.
texted me, like, a minute after, and I still saw him, and I was like, "Oh, he just texted me, bye." You know?
But that's somebody exciting that they're willing you could definitely tell the willingness versus the
Oh,
hesitant.
wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just pulling
Mm.
away from it, and it's not cute.
Mhm.
It's not cute, and it's just not what you want. You wanna be with someone that's excited about you, that responds to you, that, like just feeds your soul, not someone who's causing you to question things, like they're pulling away and you're feeling desperate and anxious. It's just that's not the vibe we're going for. So I would just say they're just not that into you. They might be talking to
Mhm.
other people. Like, I wish there was a psychology. I'm sure there is a psychological answer behind it, but I'm just
That's
gonna go
simple
with the
enough.
simple answer.
Mhm.
Actions speak louder than words every
Sure
time.
do. It
And
sure
if they try to say, "Oh, I didn't have my phone," bitch, everybody has their phone nowadays. On them.
That's silly.
No, unless I see you with a flip phone or like a Nokia or something, then we might can give you some
it is.
grace. But uh-uh. Okay. So beyond when it comes to finding Mrs. or Mr. Right, whatever gender normality, they, them, whoever, when you're trying to find out the right person,
Mhm.
what is the best advice for women or just people looking to attract a partner who truly aligns with their values, especially when dating feels frustrating or overwhelming?
Yeah.
So I would say, so I talk to a lot of women that might have a really long list or like a lot of conditions. Um, and sometimes that kind of makes it so constricty. Like, oh, there's like, is there actually a person out there that like exists in this very restrictive long list of things? Like we have standards, but that's different.
Yeah.
And so usually I think it's I wish I remembered his name. I think it's like someone Orion, and he talks about relationships. And so this is what I like to invite my women to my clients who are women to go through to see, is this someone who is going to show up as a partner that is ready for love? And so usually what I do is I'm like, okay, let's take a look. Can they captain their ship? As this person, does this person take care of themselves, grooming wise? Do they dress well? Do they take care of their body and what they're putting in it? Are they working out? Are they leading themselves? Do they have a job? Do they feel good about that? All of that. And then once they're like, yeah, you know what? That person can totally master it. He's commanding his ship, or they're commanding their ship. They can take care of themselves, you know, independent. They can do it. Then I look at, okay, how are they leading you?
Mm.
If you are a crew member of this ship, and they are the captain and you're taking their lead, are they treating you with respect? Are they supporting you and showing good leadership skills in, encouraging you to participate? Or, maybe you guys have like a team, what's it, like a co-team relationship? That's great, but is that something that's aligned with what you ultimately want? Or are you smacking them over the head with a frying pan and like, I'm taking charge of this ship? Because that's not cute, okay, in any relationship, you know?
No, and it never goes nowhere. You never get anywhere.
It doesn't, and it's
Mhm.
also, I mean, like with my 6.5 year relationship, I was the one leading that ship. And ultimately,
Oh, wow.
it was not what I wanted. I was leading. I have great leadership skills. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely hit him over the head with a frying pan. Whoops. I know. Not really. Not
It
literally.
ha
I got you.
No, metaphorically, it happens though. Well, at first I was like, "Girl," but then I was like, "Tell me no mind." But yes, metaphorically, we had
Yeah. So anyway, so you're in the place where you're like, okay, how is this person leading me? Do I like this? Um, or are they, talking, bad
Yeah.
to me?
It's
Are
okay.
they
We curse on here.
Oh, I can? Thanks.
yeah, you
Uh-huh.
guys.
Yeah, are they talking shit to me? Like, do they make me feel bad? Like, do I just like feel so sad and alone and anxious and ugh? If that isn't working, then it's time to leave. But if they're able to lead you appropriately, it's like, yay. Then we can take a look at their ship. And so a lot of the women I work with, they're looking for a high value man, someone who can take care of themselves and take care of them, not like, it's a ship, but they're not
Yeah.
asking my
Not common.
clients to pay
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, is this like a raft or is this like a cruise ship? Is this like a yacht
Mm. That's
or
a
is this
package ship. Mhm.
right? Like we're going for like a nicer boat, or maybe it's well finished and that's good enough. And so of
Mhm.
course here we're looking at, okay, do they own a house? Do they have their own mode of transportation? Do they have a job? Are they working towards building their purpose and empire and all of that? Because that's hot, of course, right?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, we want
Mhm.
a man that's successful.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Mhm.
doesn't want that? Come on.
Right.
And
That's
if their ship is a raft,
yeah.
like they're not going to be able to provide that leadership really. Like you're going to have to be like, putting some band-aids on that raft when there are leaks. Then all of a
Mm.
sudden you're like, why am I doing everything and like have a job and he doesn't? And
Yeah.
and then the last thing, I know is a long one, but I know
No, you're good.
the last thing is, where are they going? Are they going to I Want a Family Island, or are they going to situationship, good enough for me? Are they going to let's do a long-term relationship, or let's see what happens and just go out there? You want to make sure you're going to the same island and just have a general direction you're aligned there with, if that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Girl, you making me wanna go to the beach now, right now. Going out on a cruise ship and a boat.
Yeah, I never thought of the analogy of, like, the ship and how do they lead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
there's so much information out there, and that's just like at the very basic level. If all of those align, then let's see where it goes.
yeah, yeah.
I like that. Okay. Hmm. So I'm not sure if you watch Love is Blind or any of like the reality shows of like
I've seen some.
marriage. Okay. So I think there's a lot of talks about there's real chemistry, but oftentimes I think it could just be like trauma bonding. So how can you tell if it's the difference between real chemistry and trauma bonding when if that person gives you anxiety?
That's a good question. I think you really got to look within in the sense of like, why am I feeling this?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're feeling anxious in a relationship, part of it could be just some unhealed trauma stored in your nervous system that needs to be released or shifted. Um, and a lot of the times, based on our conditioning, again, not our fault, but our responsibility, but based on our conditioning, we might be drawn towards someone who's unavailable, for example. Like, oh, but he's so great. He's so great,
Yeah.
but he's recently going through a divorce and, he's not actually ready for that, but he's so great. And so we're like looking for that validation almost. We're like drawn towards it because maybe as a child, our dad wasn't there all the time.
Yeah.
Mm,
So we're looking for that. It's like this inner child healing. So I think it kind of comes back first of all to go back to the spark, like we were mentioning, the spark versus what feels safe. So that, and then if we're like talking about anxious and like wanting,
mhm,
then there's something within that needs to be shifted here.
mhm,
And once that's shifted, you're actually going to be attracted to different people. So
Interesting.
mm,
yeah,
Yeah.
safer people.
Because
For
you could
lack of a better
obviously really tell, like, a gut feeling versus an anxious feeling, like, I mean, most people can. Some people are just not aware, and that's gotta get
mhm,
aware. But most people can kinda tell those different types of levels and really make an educated decision on whether that person's right for them or not too.
mhm.
Sometimes.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes not. Sometimes love is blind, and we all
Yeah.
know it. We've all been in a situation like that. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mm,
it takes some awareness. It does. Like, and you gotta really you gotta take a good hard look at yourself and be like, what is it about me that's causing me to continuously attract emotionally unavailable people? Or for me to continuously attract people who maybe aren't leading their ship, you know?
mhm. I like that. Okay. So I love talking about energies. I think if you have like a masculine energy, energy is attractive. So let's talk about like feminine energy. And it's kind of hard for someone like myself, who has more of like a masculine energy sometimes. So how can we, people like me, how can we channel the power of a feminine energy when it comes to dating? And that struggle to shift out of that masculine to go more to the feminine.
Absolutely. So this is something that I talk with my clients a lot as well. Um, we, thanks to the feminist movement, now we
Yeah.
get to
Mhm.
work, yay, which does mean that we get to be in our masculine energy. We're like, go, go,
Mhm.
go, let's do
Mhm.
this. Um, it's ultimately it's activating this fight or flight response, which like especially if you have a lot of coffee like I did today, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go, I'm super focused, I'm ready to like basically hunt and kill, which I'm vegan so don't Don't kill everybody.
Don't do that.
That's not the answer, but that's like what we're going for. We're like, we're going to reach our goal. And it's good in some parts, right? Especially for both parties, all parties, no matter who you are, you want to have a balance of energy. So when it comes to us, right? Like, let's say we leave the workplace. I usually invite my clients to have some sort of trigger. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm going to put on this beautiful scarf that means, all right, 9 to 5's done. It's time to play. Or they can even have a little rubber band or a bracelet that says something, and they snap it, or they put their just like nice little like, oh hell, that's it's time to step into my feminine energy. And it's just like a reminder to soften, to be like, oh, okay, now I don't have to have control over anything. I just get to go and be and flutter around as I see fit. And when we are going out and we are wanting to attract someone maybe with masculine energy, or maybe, I don't know, other energy, whatever,
Mhm,
we want to go
mhm.
out and we want to feel empowered, but we want to use kind of like our feminine wiles. And so this is kind of like, we want to kind of have like this movement.
A little sachet. Mhm.
Hey, we want to do something that makes us feel sexy and sensual,
Yeah.
dress nice, classy and nice, and then we're gonna go out and we're like, all right, I'm ready to like, I don't know, bewitch someone. We want to have that kind of energy. And so
Yeah.
it is important that we have a separation because as a 9 to 5, just as it exists in this world, we need to
Mhm.
shift. So having that and just like, maybe doing a little dance with lingerie in the mirror, in your
Mm.
boxers, been like, hey, you want a sexy hug? Like, you want to get out there? Like, I'm feeling myself. And when you're doing that, you can almost be like, I have a magical power to,
Mhm.
bewitch anyone.
Yeah.
It's very empowering to feel
Yes.
that. It's not that we're like surrendering and like being mousy or closed off. We want to be open, we want to be ready, and we want to be very present.
Hmm.
Yes.
Mm. We
Girl.
want you're right. We need to be present. We need to be present with ourselves and understand
Mhm.
what we want. But then
Yeah.
also being okay to break free a little bit, like you just said, and just do the damn thing sometimes.
Yeah, and I didn't think about the flight or fright that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I've been dealing a lot with that. Cortisol responses and all of that stuff, my own personal journey. Thank you, coffee. But yeah, it's like when we're in this like feminine flow, we don't have to worry about that. We can almost come from a place of rest and this being that we get to experience and just go with the flow. We don't need to worry about the how. We don't need to be like on the prowl hunting. Like that's not the vibe we're going for. We're just enjoying our lives. We're laughing, we're engaging with our environment, which I know we talked about Allegra.
Huh?
We're feeling ourselves and we're feeling good about that.
Mm.
I love it. I
I
love
love
it. All
that.
about that breaking free and
It
just
is. Isn't that what we
Yeah.
all want anyway? We work so hard
Yes.
so we can have that freedom.
we
Mhm.
do. We do. And like whether that's money, whether that's emotional, intelligent, anything like that. Like, oh, there's nothing better than when you can just pull them chains off, Pookie, and you
There's
can,
not yes, and also there's nothing better for you to tap in your feminine energy and know that your captain is like, he's right, he can lead the ship without me questioning.
yep,
Yeah. Mm,
yep. Okay.
mm.
So let's go to fuckboy rehab real quick. Okay. No, okay. So what's the number one mistake people make when trying to
Mm.
fix a player? And is there ever hope for reform?
I mean, if you're ever trying to fix someone else, don't do that. You
Well,
want someone who's a finished product, okay? You want someone who can handle themselves, like we talked about captaining their own ship. If they're a player, play is gonna play, like so no,
mm,
you deserve better than that. I mean, if they're like, okay, I've changed my ways and blah blah blah, and they're going to therapy and they're actually doing the work, and actually you're seeing that their actions are matching what they're saying, and you're like, okay, captaining the ship, okay, he's leading me, or they're leading me in a way that I like. Okay, he has a nice boat. Maybe I'll just stay and see where this goes. You're more than welcome to try, like maybe he is changed, right? At some point, people do grow up, and decide, actually, I do want to have that partner. But you got to pay attention to their actions. And the minute that anyone else is on the, you know, is in
Mhm.
there, bye. Because you just,
Did you just
it was kind of like the
Yes.
grease thing, the grease.
The
Okay, okay, so fuckboy, if they are so you can recover from being a fuckboy. There's hope, right? Is that
There's always hope, but if you're engaging with someone who is not leading their ship, then get off that ship because who's going to be leading the ship? Or
right?
is he
Because I'm
inviting a
not.
bunch of other people on that ship and you're like just one of many? Like that's again
Mhm.
down that cycle of rejection and trash, and then you're not feeling good about yourself. You're lacking that trust in yourself because you're going against your intuition.
Mm,
We do not have time. Mm-mm. Life is too short.
that's right. Okay. So
You might want
another thing about dating. Now we're on the ship. Now we're expecting this captain to be also a provider because I need to be a provider. But also, many women they want a provider, but they also want their independence. So how can they strike the balance without losing their own identity?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of us women who are feminists and
Yeah.
are so independent, it
I
we
mean, I
need to
ain't trying to be a
soften.
feminist all the time. I need to be a dainty flower, a
Yeah.
something.
Honestly, like I wear so much more pink than I used to.
Mhm,
But it really is like leaning into letting them lead. Like, well, I guess leaning away from that. Like they're leading,
mhm.
you got to let them lead. You can obviously, you're going to have to lead your own life. Like you're going to have to make dentist appointments by yourself. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. They're not going to do everything for you. But, you do want to feel empowered in your own life. And when you are with that person, you want to fall into their leadership.
Mm.
So, and you got to make sure that they're like leading you in the right way and all that stuff, like we talked about. So I do think like we do need to soften a bit. Like
Mhm.
we have been mistaking, this independence. Well, we've been mistaking being closed off for independence. And whenever someone comes to me, they're like, I'm an independent woman. And I'm like, you are probably closed off, and that is why you're single.
Mm.
So, you know, gotta open up. Just because you
Huh.
can do it alone doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
You got to think about how that person can really fit into their life, into your life, right? And if there's no room for them, they're not going to show up. I was
Mhm.
listening to Alison Armstrong. I don't know if y'all have heard of her, but she's amazing.
Please.
She's such a cheerleader for men. And I was literally listening to this last night. And she said that men are just subconsciously looking for a woman who matches their strength, but in the sense of maybe they have different strengths. So like ultimately it's going to complete this I don't know, ultimate team. So like
Mhm.
if my strength is in being super vulnerable and providing a safe space for my dude to go in. And he is very strong in the leadership department. He can man the ship and he is going to take care of everything. And I'm providing that safety for him, then that works. And so I think you got to really notice, like, if you are independent, what kind of men are you attracting? If you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, maybe that's because they're subconsciously looking for someone to fit in with them. And maybe ultimately what they're finding is that you're the leader and they don't have to do anything because they're a bunch of lazy buttholes.
Which,
Mm.
I mean, you're playing to the strengths and you're wanting to, it's all about a balanced approach too, at the end of the day. Like, and that's a big thing too. And I guess my relationship that I've learned being in multiples, but having one that's lasted so long now is it's, it's not always 50-50. Yes, we would like, most times it is. Most times we're both, but it's it's almost like it's okay. There's some weeks or some days where he's going to struggle a little bit or vice versa. And like, that's why we're here to pick up the slack for each other and be that wholesome connection instead of just be like, oh, you're feeling sick today. Oh, sorry. You got to do this, this, and
Yeah.
this. Still on the list, Pookie. Get it
Mhm.
done.
That's not the vibe we're going for
Yeah.
at all.
No.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love that, Brandon. And I just one more thing to piggyback off of that is like Tony Robbins says this. Tony Robbins and Sage Robbins. They I don't know if y'all have heard of them. They're amazing. I love them. They're my inspiration. It's fine. they say like a relationship is a place to give, not take. And me and my partner, we are constantly like, it's almost a competition for giving. And that's what, Tony Robbins and Sage Robbins suggest. They're like, you want to like give, be like, you want to make that person your raving fan. So, I'll cook breakfast for my dude. I'll make the bed for my dude. And there are some days where I'm doing that. And there are other days where he's making me dinner and, we're talking and he's holding me while I'm crying. It is a team effort, and if you're constantly open to like giving and really not there for taking, if you guys can both show up as that like whole healed version of you, then it's going to be a successful relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Don't now let's not get it twisted. There's going to be some arguments and stuff along the way,
It's
but
not all
it's
rainbows.
it's
Yeah.
not. But
Mhm.
however, I will say this: being in and I do pride myself. I'm in a very committed, successful. We love each other dearly.
I do have a question.
Oh.
Is that a conversation or a topic that normally comes up with your clients with the 50-50?
Mm,
Um, I do mention it. Usually a lot of my clients are looking for that person. So we talk more about the ship, or we talk about, like if they are looking for some sort of validation, we're talking about healing that, and we heal that before we go into like, yeah, like you want this to be like a partnership, right? But a lot of my clients aren't necessarily at that point where, I mean, they get to that point. And they're like, I don't need you anymore. I'm like, it's fine, you found love. It depends.
ah, okay, okay. Um, okay. So before we wrap up, we want to leave our listeners with some tangible takeaways from you, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Love
So, what's one key piece of advice for women who are ready to step into their full potential and that full feminine power and ready to attract that dream partner of theirs? What would you say?
it. Okay. Get off the apps and go out.
Check and check.
And get
Okay.
off the apps, go out and choose to believe that the world is your dating app, that
Mm.
he is out there and he is waiting for you and he is making his way to you.
Mm.
Don't
She's
be
I,
talking to me. She looked
so
directly at me and said that, and I receive it. She looked directly at me and said it. Check and check. The world is a dating app.
it
Mm,
is. It is. It is. Gotta get back to
okay.
that. That's more fun anyway.
it is
Mhm.
because you get to travel and like see people, meet people, do those types of things.
Dude,
Yes.
that's where I met my dude at the airport.
Story girl, tell them.
Wait, what happened?
Tell them.
Yeah, Brandon hasn't heard this yet, huh? So
Mhm.
there I was. Okay. I was coming back from a conference in San Diego, and I was walking along, feeling good, feeling empowered after the
Uh-huh.
conference. I'm like, yeah, coaching, it's cool.
uh-huh.
There he was. I saw him, and he was walking this way, and I was like, ooh, and I was like, this is gonna be like my own little Korean drama. So I like sped up a little bit to make sure that we kind of came here. And I was like, "Oh, you go ahead." And he was like, "No, you go." And then I was like, "No, you go." You know that game. We've all played it with one person or
100%.
another.
Yeah.
And then ultimately I'm like, "All right, this is getting ridiculous." And I'm like, "I'll go." I'm like, "All right, thank you." Continue on. And I don't know if y'all have ever been to the San Diego airport. It's a little
Yes.
circle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was, making my rounds, circling around, being like, "Where did that guy go?" I mean, we got to say yes when the universe presents us with something tasty.
Yeah. Especially in a different
So I
area.
was circling around and I spotted him. Looked at his finger, no ring. I was like, "All right, I see you." And I went and it wasn't even at my terminal. It was at the Sacramento terminal. I live in San Jose, California. So anyway, so I sat behind him like multiple rows, like creepily staring at the back of his head. I know, it's creepy. And
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I was like drinking my matcha, and I was like, nice. Anyway, finally, it was time for me to board. I was like group C. I was like, okay, I better go. So I went there, stood in line again at the different terminal for San Jose. And, I make sure I'm open and available. Ladies, take out the headphones, take, put your cell phone away, engage with your environment. And so I was doing that, standing in line, and I hear a voice from behind me, and it says, "That's a well-used backpack." I have a really dirty backpack. Anyway, I travel with it. And I look back and it's him. And I'm like, thanks. It's my plus one with me wherever I go. Then I take it upon myself to be like, I'm going to continue this conversation. What are you in town for? Of course, we just continue. We board the plane, and it's a Southwest, and we're in Group C. So I'm like, what are the chances that there's even going to be two seats next to each other? But whatever, we'll see. So we kind of hop on the plane. I see two seats. I'm like, oh, would you like to sit together? And he's like, oh, sure. And so we sat next to each other, and we found out later that, well, during that conversation, that he was a regular at a coffee shop I used to work at. And I helped him before. And I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm like, this makes sense. I remember you. And then we were just like really like serendipitous, right? So we had a
Mm,
wonderful conversation. By the end, we're like, yeah, let's get coffee. And we my number, and he, like I said, he texted me like a minute after. We hugged. He was walking away after I gave him my number. He crossed the street to get on the shuttle. I still saw him, and he's like, hi, Miss Jackson. And I'm like, hi. So it was pretty magical. Yeah.
Good for you. Oh, that's like a movie. I just literally pictured a movie just like in the head going around. You're in the airport, just dramatic, just
mhm.
ah, oh, that's beautiful.
Could be your love story too.
Yeah,
So
that's
don't,
very true.
where do you want to meet your person? Go there. Airport, grocery store, get it.
Mhm.
Bank.
I
Shit, I'm
like
going to the
that.
bank next time.
A
Going to the
bank.
bank. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm waiting right outside.
I mean, it's a thought.
I mean, it is. So, we're gonna start entering the phase of some spicy questions.
Mm, 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 mm,
So,
mm.
for singles out there, what are the 3 best questions to ask on a first date?
Ooh. Okay. Let me, I'm gonna say some no-nos and
Okay.
maybe instead. Well, first of all, you don't want it to be an interview, because I know we just want to narrow it down. There's
Mhm.
the dating apps are so overwhelming. We're swiping, we're like, are you the person for me? Do you want a situationship? Blah blah blah. Half the time interviewing doesn't work, and oftentimes it's actually pushing people away. We don't want that. But you do
Mhm.
want to ask, like, oh, what's your favorite childhood memory? So you're getting an idea, you're allowing them to tap into something they probably haven't accessed in a while. You're getting them to share a bit about themselves, right? That's fun. Um, but a lot of women I talk to, they're like, well, I make sure people know my intentions up front.
Oh, gotcha.
So like, oh, I want kids, and I want a masculine man and a provider, and I want them to be Christian and whatever. And I'm like, that's like not sexy. That's not fun. People do not want to be
Not on
interviewed
the
for
first
it.
date, yeah.
Yeah, or
Mhm.
even a second date. Like you
Yeah.
want to see where it goes, and just like let the conversation flow organically, right? So take those out of the question. However, second or third date, when you do feel ready, instead of asking that, you can be like, so like, what are you most excited for about the future? Doesn't have to be anything. It could be like, oh, I'm excited to fulfill my purpose as whatever, my job.
Mhm.
It could be like, oh, I'm so excited to travel here and here. Leave it open ended and just see and listen. Are they someone that you want to be with based on these answers?
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
Is this someone you could imagine having a family with? So often we're like, okay, like I'm going to tell them my intentions, then it's going to be up to them to figure out whatever. Nah. And
Mhm.
a lot of the women come to me, they're like, oh, well, this person told me that he was looking for, marriage and a relationship and, all of that. And then it just turned into a situationship. They told me later they wanted something casual. It's probably, for a multitude of reasons, but they've subconsciously decided you're not the one to be that person for them, you know. Hard truths. Let me see. I don't know. I guess that was only 2 questions, but y'all know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay too, because like I mean, dating is it can be discouraging for a lot
Mhm.
of different reasons. But it's also like you keep saying, like one kind of like theme is, it's that person just might not be for you. And that's just keep looking, keep that
Keep
confidence up,
moving.
keep
Mhm.
going. Um, because yeah, we're humans. We love the connection no matter who you are. We all
Mhm.
want a connection with someone, something, what.
Mhm.
Okay. Spicy question. What's the biggest sign someone's stuck in a situationship but refuses to admit it?
Oof, it's stagnant.
Mm.
Yeah. So if they're in a relationship, but they haven't actually talked about that, and every time they bring it up, it's kind of, pushed away.
Mhm.
Um, and they're not moving towards anything. Maybe they like being together, they spend a lot of time at home, they're watching Netflix, it's comfortable, they do it. Great.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it.
Yeah.
There's no like movement forwards. I would say that's probably when you're in a little bit of denial. And I mean, depending on how long it's gone on for, you do want to approach them and be like, hey, like, where do you feel like this is going? Just curious.
I
Because
like that.
yeah, yeah, fair
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you for the lessons. Just like Ariana Grande, thank you next.
Yep.
Maybe that's the
Hmm.
one, Pookie.
Not the
Mm.
one. Okay.
Okay, last question.
Yay.
Okay, so how deep is too deep when it comes to pre-date stalking? Is it a smart or is it self-sabotage?
I don't believe in first date stalk. I don't believe in stalking people.
You
Okay. I'm
uh,
not pro stalking people. Um, I guess, okay. I mean, I'm also not pro dating apps, so there you have it. That's probably why. But I would say, like, you want to make sure that they're a real person. You probably want to do a Google Lens
yeah.
search, sure that they're not some catfish person. And yeah, maybe check their Facebook. I mean, again, in a perfect world, you're meeting them at the grocery store, so you wouldn't have time to pre-stock them.
No, no.
That's a good point. Hmm.
But then
Yeah.
what if I saw someone majestically at a grocery store and then I went
And
on
I
the Instagram and I was
and
like,
I just scrolled. Yes. Like,
"Oh, you
oh.
believe in X, Y, and Z?" No, ma'am. Then that's when you're like, "We're cutting it."
I mean, okay. Okay, if you're seeing them and then you find like there's an opportunity to connect with them and that you haven't connected with them previously, like you're like, "Oh, I didn't get their number." "Oh, but they're on Instagram." Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Follow them. Say yes to whatever the universe is providing you, okay? And then see what happens from there.
Mhm.
Okay, on the dating apps, again, this kind of comes with like the long list of things. Even something as simple as like political beliefs,
Yeah.
if
Mhm.
they're not that into it, and you're not that into it, but you're like, I'm looking for someone who's conservative and this and this and this, then just relinquish all of that a little bit.
Mm.
Like, see for yourself and trust yourself enough that you'll be able to navigate whatever that happens. I'm a pretty liberal person. My boyfriend is a libertarian. And so it's so interesting, first of all.
Yeah,
In a perfect world on the dating app, I would have never swiped on him. Never. For a multitude of reasons. Age, yeah, the political beliefs, like
yeah.
maybe what he's looking for. Now he's looking for a long-term relationship. Thank you very much. But it's like for a multitude of reasons, never would have thought that. But once
Mm.
you're like, the world is my oyster. He's captaining his ship. I like the way he's leading me. He has a really nice boat. We're going to the same island. Like, yeah. Who cares if he's, whatever and I'm whatever?
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
does that actually matter? How much of a role is that actually playing in our lives? Like, we have some interesting discussions, don't get me wrong, but they're not so dividing that we break up, So I mean, if something like whatever red flag you're describing, Brandon, is really like icky, 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 sticky, okay, you gotta listen to that. But at the same time, just maybe wait and see. They could really surprise you.
That's true. That's true.
Hmm.
That is very true.
Hmm.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You've just been such a gem, and we
Yes.
just love it.
Thank
Um,
you for having me. It's been so fun.
course. And is there anything for our guests, anywhere they can go specifically to follow you, look at websites, any of the fun stuff that you offer and do?
Mhm.
Where can our audience go to get
Yes, well, anyone who's listening, I'd love to offer, a free consultation. Woo! So you can go ahead and reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Suzanne Jackson Coaching, SuzanneJacksonCoaching. Well, on
link in
Instagram.
the bio too? Or
Yes,
Uh-huh.
down here. Or of course, I do have a website as well. It's SuzanneJacksonCoaching.com. So you can find me anyway, any which way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne. Again,
Thank you.
we value you and appreciate you so much. So thank you.
Thanks. Same. Thanks,
Yay.
friends. It's been so fun. Allegra, good luck.
Yes. Girl, thank you.
I got
I
you.
got you. Uh-huh. We'll follow up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, everybody, we hope you enjoyed today's episode and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.